Welcome to Studio C70 at the Committee of 70. I am Patrick Christmas, and May 21st is Election Day. Got a big primary coming up. Judicial office is a whole slew of city council candidates running. It's just going to be a really big day. And you know what? Elections are job interviews. Candidates are job applicants. Voters are the hiring committee, and we have one of our job applicants for city council at large with us today, Beth Finn. Beth, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's really great to be here. I really admire the work that Committee of 70 does.
Great. Well, we appreciate it. We only have 15 minutes today, so let's jump right into it.
Yeah.
To start, why are you running?
Well, there's so many reasons, but at the heart of the matter is that I no longer think that I can continue to do my day job during the day. I work in IT as a project manager, and my activism on nights and weekends. I think there's just too much work that needs to be done, too many people that need help in the city of Philadelphia, and so I can't convince myself of doing that split focus anymore. And so now I decided to run, and it is the scariest and most exciting thing I've ever done in my life.
That sounds like about the right balance.
Yeah.
And you have all but one, but not the other thing. Yeah, something's
right,
probably
exactly.
off. So, given your career, work experience, the skills you bring to the table, what makes you ready to be a city council member?
Well, I'm a co-founder of the Women's March on Philadelphia. I am a 15-year brain tumor survivor. And in my day job, like I mentioned, I work in IT and in tech as a project manager. I think those project management skills really bring something unique and special to City Hall. I spend all day making sure that we're solving problems efficiently and that we're focused on solving the root causes of the issues rather than treating symptoms. And I think City Hall does a lot of treating symptoms right now, which is a temporary fix, but we need to really address the root causes of the serious issues our city is facing, like poverty and homelessness, if we really want to make a difference.
Yeah, certainly a lot of issues to address in Philly and across the state. So, I think one of the kind of exciting things, it is an exciting thing, is that there's a lot of policy being made at the state and local level, not as much in DC for a number of reasons, and we'll leave that for another day. But as far as City Hall goes and the decisions they make and how they make them, what do you think could be improved as far as like how City Hall works?
I think part of it is we have to improve those efficiencies. There's a lot of waste in what we're doing now. My perfect example, and something that I'm really campaigning on, is that we spend hundreds of millions of dollars a year paying Wall Street banks to keep our money for us. And if we had a public bank here in Philadelphia, we would instantly save that money. Not to mention we could also refinance our debt at a much better rate, and we could invest our money here at home rather than in whatever the big banks want to invest it in. So efficiencies are things that we really need to focus on. I also think that our budget is a reflection of our priorities, and I don't think that our budget is spent on the things that are really the priority of Philadelphians right now. So I want to rearrange how we're spending things. And I want to make sure that we are taxing the wealth in the city rather than taxing the people in the city, because that is the way our tax structure is right now. It's really impacting our lower income Philadelphians much more than our higher income Philadelphians. And I want to make sure everybody, including corporations, are paying their fair share.
So, I mean, a great deal of how these decisions get made is just who is there to make them. I mean, so we have a 17-member council and a mayor. Around elections, Committee 70 loves elections. Especially given your experience on the campaign trail now, what do you think should be improved around the way we put people in public office?
I think there's a lot of room for improvement there. I think one of the problems we're seeing is that we have people who have been in office for such a long time, and that causes two problems. One is that they're always running to keep their job. They're not focused on doing their job. But also it means that I think that they've lost touch with what it is to be in the regular working world. The world of politics is kind of an isolated and separate thing. And if you want to represent the people, it's really helpful to have been one of the people pretty recently. I think our founding fathers believed that you should have a job and a career outside of politics, and then you come and serve your country for a period of time, and then you go back to whatever it is you did before. So I really believe in term limits. I also think we need to have some significant reform around campaign finance laws. Public financing of elections would go a really long way to help solve some of the problems that we see. And that doesn't just mean that all the money comes from the government. It means, small dollar donors are still really crucial and vital to the health of our democracy, but we should really significantly limit the amount of money that any one person or corporation can give to a candidate. The city of Seattle, I think it is, has put a really interesting program in place. They give each resident $100 worth of vouchers, and they get to distribute that to whatever candidate or candidates they want. And so it lets every citizen be invested in the elections, even if they don't have the financial resources to do it.
Right.
I love that idea. I think that would be a great thing for Philadelphia.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that trick around money in politics is that it's not going away.
Right.
So the trick
but
is
let's
like
find a way to make it more equitable.
Exactly. Transparency and disclosure, and kind of trying to level the playing field to the extent possible.
Yeah.
So, you know, something that you know, probably not enough folks don't realize every spring is that Pennsylvania has a closed primary system.
We do.
What are your thoughts on that?
You know, I go back and forth about it. On the one hand, I do feel like the party should have the right to choose who is representing them in the general election. And when you have an open primary that anybody can vote in, you know, you maybe dilute the ability of the party to choose their representatives. But on the other hand, we've seen some very interesting results in states like California, where they have this. It's as open as it gets, and it's a, you know, top two no matter what party they're from.
Right.
I kind of like that idea too, because if the state or municipality is overwhelmingly, you know, leaning one way or the other, like we are in Philadelphia, I think you get better choices that way that are more representative of the people. So I'm not 100% sure whether we should get rid of our closed primaries or not, but I think it's something interesting that we should definitely look at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So here, I'll move back over to council. So, you know, another dynamic that I think is really important for folks to understand is that we have 10 district council members,
yes,
right, and 7 at large. And that's just not simply, you know, district council members represent certain folks in certain parts of the city, and at-large folks represent folks at large. I mean, there's across the city, there's power involved here. So could you speak a little bit to like how you think the power works right now in that given arrangement, and is it okay? Should it work a little bit differently?
I think that we could do better. I think there's a lot of ways we could do better, but yeah, I think we could do better there. You know, we have this concept of councilmanic prerogative, and it's not a law. It's not, you know, a requirement. It's mostly tradition. And I think there was a time when district council members really did know and understand their district better than anybody else. But I don't think that's true anymore. Our districts are quite large, and there is so much financial influence in politics that I'm not sure it's true anymore that those council members really know every aspect of their district. I think it's really important that no matter what council is doing, we make sure that the community is involved and engaged in those decisions, and that we and that we're talking to them about what's right for them. As an at-large member, I will have no problem standing up and saying, that bill is not benefiting the people of a particular district or the people of the city. I see that as my obligation to represent all of the people of Philadelphia. It's one of the reasons why I've been trying to get to every corner of the city. If I'm going to run at large, I want to really know the people in every part of the city.
Right.
So yeah, talking to people is I think one of the ways we counter it. And I think that we need to elect new voices that have the courage to stand up and say, this is not right, and this is not serving the people of Philadelphia.
Do you feel like there have been enough new voices in council, let's say, like over the past 10, 15, 20 years, or has there not been quite enough turnover? I mean, we at C70 generally think there needs to be some amount of turnover in any legislature.
Yes, I agree with that. It's one of the reasons why I'm a fan of term limits. New voices, I think, are always beneficial. There has been some turnover, but we are still facing the same problems that we have been facing for decades. Our poverty rates are increasing. Our homelessness rates are increasing. The economy may be getting better, but I think, you know, we have to be very careful about that and watch what's happening. Every 4 years, politicians come along and say to us they're going to fix it, and it's not getting fixed. So I think we have to change what we're doing. If we want different results, we have to elect different people.
Yeah, it seems, you know, pretty clear that, you know, where we have had, you know, generally more turnover in council is in those at-large slots.
Yep.
And you know, as you know, like one of the challenges, I guess, with those at-large slots is you know, we have to determine who goes onto the ballot in what order, and that's determined, you know, randomly. So whoever draws that number one slot is going to be in a pretty good position, ballot position all across the city of Philadelphia. You know, what do you think about that process? Should we be doing that differently?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. For a very long time, I said if we could randomize ballot positions by precinct or you know, or by ward or something, I thought that would be good. And then somebody made a counter argument to me about voter literacy and said, you know, we have a very high illiteracy rate in Philadelphia, 22%, I think. And so that's a lot of people who don't know how to read. And so they maybe count on those numbers to know what button they want to push. And so if we had a randomized ballot, it would be much more difficult for people. Not to mention, even beyond that, for just even a general voter, the ballot is so long.
It can be very busy, like it will be next month.
I think there's going to be voter fatigue standing in that voter. I mean, it could take you 10, 15 minutes to press all the buttons you have to press.
Yeah.
So I think that the pulling the numbers out of the coffee can is quaint and makes for a good Twitter account.
Sure does.
But yeah, but I also am not sure that, especially with our judicial candidates, electing our judges based on the number they pulled out of a coffee can,
problematic.
I don't think that's serving democracy very well.
Yeah. Well, lots of issues there, right? How our elections work. So we have a few minutes left. What's one big thing that you would want to accomplish, in your first term as a council member?
So the centerpiece of my legislative agenda is to bring a public bank to Philadelphia. So I don't know, a lot of people are not familiar with the concept of a public bank. I mentioned it briefly at the beginning. We are putting our money in these Wall Street banks. Our $5 billion city budget has to go somewhere. And right now it's going to Wall Street. Wall Street is charging us a lot of fees to have our money there. And they're investing it in things that I don't personally agree with, gas and oil pipelines, for-profit prisons. I think a lot of Philadelphians don't agree with that. It's definitely not being invested back here in Philadelphia. That money would be so much better served being invested here at home, with us not paying those fees, with us being able to refinance our debt at a much better rate. And ultimately, that public bank could support our regional banks that would help small businesses get the loans and funding that they need. It could help individuals who are unbanked or underbanked get accounts if they need them. There are a lot of benefits to opening a public bank here in Philadelphia, and I think it solves a lot of our budgetary problems without raising taxes, which is something I don't want to do.
Yeah. Accomplishing big policy change is difficult unless the local context is just right. And kind of the stars align. From what you've heard from the voters you've spoken with, other candidates, like do you think that could line up?
I think it could. Public banking is starting to get a lot of attention nationally. They're looking at it California, New York, New Jersey. The Bank of North Dakota actually is 100 years old and has always been profitable and solvent. They returned $300 million to the state pretty regularly. And that's a lot. We have twice as many residents in Philadelphia as the whole state of North Dakota, and our budget is significantly larger than theirs. So we could be returning a lot more money to our coffers as well. So I do think the time is right. The Fels Institute at Penn actually did a study about public banking in Philadelphia, and the results of it were very positive. And there is an RFP that is going through council right now to see how we might go about establishing a public bank. My concern is that it is going to wallow and not get pushed. We'll do the study, which we have a lot of tendency to do, and then not follow through on it. And I think that for Philadelphians, where we're the largest poor city in America, money is our fundamental problem. And so we need to find more of it without harming the people of Philadelphia.
Yeah. So the election day is coming up. What's that's your big policy objective. What's the one other thing voters should know about you when they walk into their polling site?
Well, speaking of button numbers, mine is number 64. So I'm the third one over on the top row of the at-large candidates. And I'm just really excited to serve the people of Philadelphia. I do see this as a job interview, like you said at the beginning. And my goal is to interview with as many Philadelphians as I possibly can. So I'd love to, hear from people. You can reach me on my website, www.beth4phl.com. And I love talking to voters. It's my favorite thing to do. So please reach out. I'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. All right. So we're signing off here from Studio C70. Thank you so much for joining us. You can follow Beth at her website. And also the nonpartisan voter guide that 70 just launched this week. You can find it at ballot.70.org. You can also download our new WeVote app, wherever you download your apps at home. It has all the resources you could possibly need to get ready to vote next month. Lastly, thank you to Thomas, Scout, and Harrison for their generous support to make these Facebook Live broadcasts possible. So, Beth, thank you so much.
Thanks
and
for
good luck
having
on the trail.
It's been great to be here.
Terrific. Thank you.
Bye.